Hello everybody, welcome to another Hands-On with me, Christian Schiller. As always, every week, well most weeks, I look at a cool piece of technology that I'm interested in trying a bit more about. If you're joining me for the first time, or you're joining for regularly, then you can find more at christianschiller.com. You can also subscribe, say hi, leave a comment, etc. Today, I am going to be looking at something. I'm cheating ever so slightly here because it's actually something I've been using. It's not completely new to me, although I have done my best to completely uninstall it to see what getting started with it again is like. Whether I've managed to uninstall it completely, we shall see. But it is Fig, and you can find more at fig.io. The tagline says, "Your terminal reimagined. Fig adds IDE-style autocomplete to your existing terminal. Move faster with Fig." That's a lot of promise. We'll see what that means exactly, and see if it really does reimagine our terminal. I have tried Fig several times over the past few months, actually, and I tried it. I'm not quite sure when exactly. I tried it a little while ago, and I couldn't. It would. What you can see here in the video, this kind of autocomplete pop-up, it would frequently stop and just sort of stop working. And then I tried it again more recently, and it worked, and it stayed working, and that's when I stuck with using it. And I thought it was about time I did a video on it. You might have seen me using it in previous videos where I was doing things in a terminal. It comes up quite a lot. It works with existing terminals and shells. You can see here terminal, this is macOS terminal, iTerm, Hyper, VS Code, Tabby, I don't know Tabby, JetBrains, Kitty, Alacrity, different shell environments, and then loads and loads of different CLI tools. And there is a plugin ecosystem, which we'll have a look at a little bit later. It is mostly open source, I think. I did hop over to the GitHub repository. As far as I could tell, everything was open source here. Just on macOS right now, join the Windows Linux waitlist. There is this download and there is a homebrew formula. I'm going to use the homebrew formula, and I will say I have discovered a few issues with the homebrew formula, because then every time you update, it uninstalls, which then was at least sending you to a page on the Fig website saying, "Why are you uninstalling?" And then they added an option saying it's a homebrew update. And I don't think I've seen it recently, or it just hasn't updated recently, but we'll see. That's something to bear in mind. That does happen when you use homebrew. It's a little bit fiddly. It's already downloaded. Yep. Cool. Now, there isn't really an onboarding here that gets triggered. It's a little bit figuring it out. It's not running right now. Let's open it up. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Need some permissions. I've obviously already set those permissions, but let's just double check. It should already be enabled. Yeah, from me, because I've already done this. And there is a debug if it doesn't seem to be working, as you can see here. And continue. Now this is something I dislike. This is something that was also similar with Warp, where you have to provide an email address, which is a shame. We have preferences here. I'm going to stick with system. I kind of like having system, although my terminal's in black, so we'll see how that looks, but we can always change it later. Yes, so here's the email address. Now, and it's also interesting because the thing earlier said what it was using it for, but this is actually saying sync your configuration, which is not quite the same thing. All right, signed in, taking us to Fig. This happened before, it then opened up in a completely different terminal. I'm not quite sure why. Probably need to relaunch, so I'm gonna do that actually. So we should now see that it is running up here in the menu bar, and we can see debugger, we can see autocomplete is enabled, we can see the settings, which we can also get to in another way, and integrations. It's auto-detected a few applications I have already, iTerm, Terminal, and VS Code, and we'll figure that out in a second, and then IntelliJ, which we'll also come to in a second. So let's just start with iTerm for now. So we can type in Fig settings, And this is where it starts to reveal its web framework origins, I think. I'm going to go through these a little bit. So there's this dot file syncing. Quick edit your dot files and auto sync them to other devices. I have applied for early access. Nothing has happened yet. I already filled that in, so I won't do it again. Plugin store. We'll come back to plugins in a minute. Let's just have mostly a look at settings. So launch on start, opt into beta. Do not automatically start, that's disabled. Disable or auto update. I have that because I'd rather use Homebrew. So this has obviously picked up some of my settings already. Disable tips. I think I'm okay with tips for now. The icon, I would hide it through this or through Bartender, but I kind of like having it there for now in case I need to check the debugger and things like that. So that's basically all the settings there. We have integrations here, disabling it in different places. Not really tried that yet. Enable experimental terminal integrations like Kitty and JetBrains. We will put that on because we want to do JetBrains in a minute. Enable new shell plugins. Let's turn that on for now because we do want to look at plugins, but I saw plugins already, so I'm not quite sure. And dot files, okay. I don't think that's going to really work at this point in time. And account. User profile, coming soon, danger zone. Okay. Invite people, sort of odd, not quite sure why, but there we go. And then autocomplete. This, we'll look at the documentation in a minute. This is sort of creating custom things. And then plugins, we'll come back to. That's basically it for now. It's reasonably easy to get started. So what can we do exactly? Well, there's all sorts of things we can do. So we should start to see, hopefully. This has always been a little bit of an issue with it. Sometimes getting it to, there we go. So it's quite small. It doesn't really reflect the font size of the terminal, unfortunately. But you can see here, kind of like it's like a Finder style interface on top of the terminal. I'm not sure what this means down in the back here. And because it's so small, I think that's a forward slash. Let's see. I am not quite sure what that did. I don't entirely know what that did, but anyway. Yeah, so it's a little bit smaller to see there, but you get the idea. So I can move into a folder. I don't really know what the folder I'm looking for is, so I can just browse around, and it'll even show me the subfolders here, etc., etc. And you get like a little bit of a preview of what it's going to do. So I just want to change into that one. Yeah, you get the idea. There's also command completion on various common terminal commands. You can see here what I might want to ls on. I'm not sure if all of these are completely accurate, but then you get, it's very small. It's a shame it doesn't really reflect the terminal font settings. And then we get the various arguments and things we can add with help as well, which is actually super useful. A little hard to read. I don't know if there may be some sort of thing we can change around that. I'll have a look later. So I found this immensely useful actually in figuring out some commands I'm not sure about what I want. Tended to just rely on history a lot. As you can see here, my autocomplete from, oops, what happened there? From my my terminal settings. But it's nice to be able to sort of go through that sort of inline man page, as it were. And we could get more complex, for example. Yeah, there we go. So something like Docker, various things there. You get the idea. It's sort of mostly what it does, and it gets smarter over time. So I actually have auto jump enabled that lets me just press J and then a few letters of a folder that I want to get to, and generally I'll just jump to that folder. But in this particular case, I can also see, actually going to, yeah, it actually auto-fills the whole path. So if that was completely obvious, let's come back. So I would start typing. It's actually doing it so quickly that you don't even notice. Previously, I would just do that, for example, and it would take me. But I can just do, oops. Yeah, that was what I was trying to trigger. And then it actually finds the options for you. And if I started typing, yeah, you get different options here. That's it. So that's I found that quite cool as well, especially for sometimes when auto jump fails a bit, if there's some things with very similar names. What else is there that we can have a quick look at? Files and folders we already looked at, really. NPM. Yeah, let's have a quick look. This is not an NPM project. No, I don't know why I'm not seeing any of the commands. I'm sure there are some in there somewhere, but I'm not seeing them. Okay, that's not a feature I'd really tried that much. Generally, I just know. This is the strange thing, this kind of autocomplete thing. Sometimes if you just from muscle memory know what it is you want, that can actually be a little bit quicker. But yeah. Kubernetes. I'm not sure if I'm game to open up Docker Desktop and get Kubernetes running right now whilst on a video. But I think you get the idea again. It's pretty similar to the autocompletes for all the commands, but you get that extra context as well. Similar with Docker. Also looking for containers and things like that. The SSH one, search your saved hosts, then use Fig on remote machines like you do locally. That one, that doesn't seem to be triggering. No, but this is a Linux box. I don't know, so I'm not entirely sure if I've understood that correctly. I feel like I might need some more guidance on how to get that to work. Heroku, okay. Scripts, yep, I've definitely get completion for your local script. Google Cloud. That's interesting because I do use Google Cloud a little bit for work. I'm not going to go through it right now because it will reveal a bit too many things I shouldn't reveal. But I think it's similar things again. And I guess the plugins architecture will allow for a whole bunch of other options as well, these default ones. And it's also actually, it's weird because it mentions some here, but then there's also others up here. So we can also get brew. It's been much more responsive in the past. And now, of course, I'm doing a video. It's not as responsive because there we go. One thing I actually really like is here. So sometimes I'm looking for a formula and I'm not always completely sure what it's called. And I can actually just do this, which obviously would take a very long time if I just went down every single one, but you get the idea. And that's actually quite cool. I found that quite useful, especially for homebrew. And I'm not sure if there's actually a homebrew formula that exists. And it's typically quicker than doing it anyway or doing the homebrew search, that kind of thing. So that's also quite cool. Let's actually try in VS Code and JetBrains as well. Let's just see how that looks. So I've got VS Code here. I'm not really going to zoom in right now because I just want to just to do this basically. So we can again check up here. Integrations VS Code could not, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Could not parse VS Code settings.json file to finish installation. You need to, okay, anyway, we'll attempt to install. It has worked before. So there's an extension, I guess. Could not. Fig works in the VS Code integrated terminal and the following settings are updated. Okay. I don't remember having to do this before. It just worked, but I did uninstall it and then reinstall it, so that could be why. Yeah, here we go. So it is off. Interesting. Let's restart it and see what happens. New window. Let's see. I have had it working before. Yeah, there we go. Now it's working. Cool. So that's it. It does work pretty much the same way as you'd expect. Let's have a look at JetBrains. I haven't tried that one, so we can try that live. Right, now let's hop up to the little icon up here. Install IntelliJ, blah, 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 integration. Okay. Really get any notification there? I guess, no, that's something else. I guess that worked. So is that working? Hard to be able to tell. Enable input method. Fig requires a custom input method to locate the caret in certain terminals. You may need to restart your computer. Oof. We may not be able to do this then. Okay, this is a new one on me. Well, I won't finish that because restarting my computer. Be warned. I'm not entirely sure what it's doing there. That's a weird one. That's a weird new one on me. I've never seen something do that before, so I'm guessing this is not going to work. No. Oh no, it is. That's weird. It is working. I didn't have to do anything. There we go. Same again. Well, that's cool. and unexpected. So let's dive into this plugins as plugin store. Get started. So sometimes I found it a little bit unclear to know exactly what they were doing. Like things like this, I'm kind of thinking, were they not there already? That's where I was a little unclear. Do I not have those already? I'm not entirely sure how they relate. And I also find it interesting that, well, let's zoom out again, go into the GitHub page. Fig itself has 18,000 stars and 4.2 thousand forks. And then here, the integrations. You can see, I think the general terminal thing works quite well, but the UI aspect here is a bit fuzzy, as we can just see. So I find it strange. Like, what is this? This must be referring to the project, not like the OMyZSH project, not. So it's a little unclear to me what these plugins actually are doing. So Fig apps, for example. Visual autocomplete for your terminal. I'm assuming I have that already. Framework. It's a little unclear to me what these are. I mean, a lot of these, again, they already exist in 1Password. Could try that one. I do have 1Password on the command line install, but I don't use it very much. I'm just trying to think of something that I actually use on a regular basis to see. All right, I don't know. Let's try this. I'm not completely clear what. Oh, that's interesting. Is this going to add configuration to the preferences? Let's see. So let's install it. I mean, I already have it installed, so I'm not completely sure what I'm installing, but Fig source. Okay, that gave me the impression that I would find it in the settings now. I don't know if that's true. I'm not sure if this is an image or... It looks like these are settings. Oh, they do something. Okay. So there are configuration options. I mean... Oh, there you go. Thing is, I'm not really clear if this is now conflicting with my pre-existing on my ZSH. So, yeah. But there you go. So I think it's adding, yeah, it's kind of encouraging you to use Fig like your terminal manager, I suppose, which is a bit weird. It kind of, well, it's odd because all I've mostly known it as is the autocomplete, but it does claim to be this like IDE for your terminal. So I guess that makes a sort of a sense. Yeah. How do I uninstall? There we go. I'm not 100% sure which method I'd prefer. I'd have to uninstall everything I have that conflicts first, I suppose. Oops, I keep getting this a lot, don't we? Hopefully this time, uninstall. Okay, that one still seems to be installed. So I don't really trust it right now to... Okay, so I guess that's what it's doing. It's not necessarily plugins for Fig, it's plugins for your terminal. And it manages them for you. Interesting. I don't know. Okay, there was one last thing I wanted to look at, which was quickly have a look around. So these completion specs. I'm not sure if I really have... Actually, so for example, Veil, although I think Veil actually works. This is the funny thing, I find that a lot of them just work. Yeah, so this is a fairly niche tool, command line tool I use, and everything is there. So I don't know if I need to do too many completion specs, because it seems to be everything is there. I don't know if that's because someone already added that. I think actually I have a feeling someone did add it. So someone did add a completion spec, so that's why. Who was it, I wonder? Oh, it was the maintainer. I remember him mentioning this. So there we go. So that's why it works. Someone added a completion spec. There's a way to see all the completion specs. It looks like it's just sort of loose in source. It's going to make it get quite large quite quickly, I would guess. Yeah, so there's just lots of them here. So this gives you an idea of what's possible, I suppose. Yeah. So I haven't really found one that doesn't work yet. But this is how you can make one if you want. So it's not magic. It's not just pulling in things from a command output, for example. It is actually, people have to create a spec in the first place. So there we go. That's how. I can't think of one I need to make, but there we go. You can see how to do it. And that's pretty much it, I think. It does a few small things quite well. I think it's going to grow over time. This plugin's architecture I'm a little unclear of, but I have found it quite useful. Yeah, let's have a look at what other subcommands for Fig there are, just out of interest. So we have source app, interact with the desktop app, debug, we saw that, diagnostics, doctor, maybe we'll have a look at that in a second, help, install Fig CLI components, invite, create a GitHub issue, cool, launch the desktop app. Is that not already running? This is where it's intriguing. Let's have a look. I'd like to have a look at some of these, see what they do. Install. That's weird. How could I install it with Fig? That's confusing. There's a typo there as well. That's something to contribute. Launch. Fig is already running. Ah, so I guess this means that it's not, I don't know, let's see. So, yeah, there we go. So I can, okay, so they're two separate components, which is interesting. Oh, okay, all right. Well, it's running. There was another one there I was interested to see. Doctor, let's have a look. I guess it should be, everything should be okay. It looks like your doc files are symlinked. Yes. Not quite sure why that's relevant, but yeah. Plugins, help, list, add, remove, sync, list. So this is picking up what I have installed elsewhere, I think. So this is all my, I don't even know what half of these are. I don't think I remember installing half of these. I guess they come from my ZSH. It'd be nice to have a bit more detail about them. I wonder if, oh, okay. All right. I was kind of more interested to see where they were installed, to be honest with you, but I could probably figure that later. So yeah, on it goes. I think you get the idea. Let's have a quick look at the kind of consumption it uses in the background. I don't think it's particularly big, a little bit here. 6.3 at the moment, that's quite high. Probably because I was just doing something. If I just leave that sitting there, not doing anything in particular. It's reasonably impactful on the CPU. I haven't really noticed. You also have to bear in mind this is a couple of different things here as well. This is probably all of these. No, not that one, that one. All of those, or there's only really one or two of them actually doing very much. So it's a little bit impactful, but I think it quietens down at a certain point. So yeah, bear that in mind if you're on a lower specs machine. But all in all, I quite like it. I find it quite useful because I can't always remember things, etc., etc. So let's switch to a summary. So Fig.io, your terminal reimagined. Adding IDE-style autocomplete to your existing terminal, and a bit more than that, I think we already saw. Works with your existing terminal and shell. It seems to, although it's not completely clear, it seems to pick up a lot of the pre-existing things you have. I haven't found anything it hasn't picked up yet, so I'm guessing that is working. Although with things like ZSH, that kind of tends to sit in the background, so you don't always remember it's there anyway. But it's nothing has been broken as far as I can tell. I'm liking it. I'm continuing to use it. Always getting things to trigger before I've just remembered or before something else I have in my environment is triggered before. Sometimes it's a little slow in that. That could be my fault. I don't know. Maybe the Fig maintainers need to have like an optimization guide. If you're using Fig, you don't need all these other things installed. You can kind of disable them because they're going to conflict with each other. Something like that might be useful. It's hard to kind of debug it myself. But I like it. I'm going to continue to use it. It's a good prompt for me. It also, people like the way it looks. People are always asking, what is that? Not that that's a motivation to do anything, but still. And yeah, check it out if that intrigued you. It's free for now. I think there's going to be like team pricing at a certain point. If you enjoyed this video, you can find more at christianschiller.com, and there's definitely a whole bunch of videos from the past and upcoming kind of related to terminal type stuff. So you might find a few there you like. And you can find a lot of my other work on my website too. Wherever you're watching this, later or live, leave a comment, say hi. Always good to hear from you. And I will be back next week. I'm not sure what with yet. I have quite a backlog of projects I want to look at. So until then, I'll be back next week. And thank you very much for joining me, everybody. Take care.